Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got a massive story that's sending shockwaves through the global defense industry. Imagine a deal worth over $100 billion. That's the sheer scale of the historic decision Canada just made to acquire a fleet of 12 new submarines to replace its aging current fleet. The competition was incredibly fierce, coming down to the wire between the Asian giant Hanwha Ocean from South Korea and TKMS, or Thyssenkrupp Marine Systems, from Germany. And just this past July 2026, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney officially announced the winner, and the bid went to Germany. Today, we're going to dive deep into why Canada is willing to spend this much money, the hidden geopolitical implications of this deal, and why German submarine technology managed to beat out South Korea, a country known for its fast delivery times. Stick around, this is going to be a fascinating deep dive. First, we need to understand the current situation of the Royal Canadian Navy. Right now, Canada only has 4 Victoria-class submarines. These were bought secondhand from the British Royal Navy back in 1998 and are facing severe readiness issues. There have been reports that at times only 1 submarine has been fully operational. Meanwhile, Canada has the longest coastline in the world and has to patrol 3 massive oceans: the Atlantic, the Pacific, and most importantly, the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic is rapidly becoming a major new strategic flashpoint. Global warming is melting the ice, opening up new shipping routes and access to vast natural resources. Because of this, major powers like Russia and China are increasingly expanding their influence in the region. Canada simply can't sit back and do nothing. Leaving its own backyard undefended is strategically unacceptable. This urgency launched Canada's Patrol Submarine Replacement Project, known as the CPSP, which is now the largest military procurement project in the country's history. When Canada laid out its requirements, needing submarines with exceptional endurance, extreme stealth, and the ability to operate under thick Arctic ice, the race was on. By August 2025, it came down to 2 finalists: Hanwha Ocean from South Korea, offering the KSS-III Batch-II, and TKMS from Germany, pitching the Type 212 CD. The South Korean offer was incredibly tempting, especially regarding how fast they could build them. Hanwha Ocean promised to deliver the first sub within just 6 years of signing the contract, which would be around 2032, and all 4 initial subs by 2035. They also offered massive technology transfers and investments right in Canada, even partnering with local colleges and shipyards in Ontario to build advanced training centers. It was an aggressive, classic South Korean marketing push. But in the end, the tables turned. Prime Minister Mark Carney decided to go with the Type 212 CD from Germany instead. This decision wasn't just about the specs on paper, it was a massive geopolitical chess move. Canada saw choosing Germany as a way to tightly cement its relationship with its NATO allies in Europe. Crucially, Germany and Norway are already jointly developing and operating this exact class of submarine. By joining the Type 212 CD user network, Canada can seamlessly share spare parts, intelligence, and conduct joint exercises with NATO partners. Imagine a crisis in the Arctic. Identical fleets from Canada, Norway, and Germany could immediately swap forces and support each other. That kind of tactical interoperability is something South Korea, being outside of NATO, simply couldn't offer at the same level. Now, let's look at the incredible engineering behind the Type 212 CD and why it won over the Canadian Navy. Picture a submarine, but not the standard cylinder shape you're used to. This sub features a unique diamond-shaped hull. Those sharp angles are specifically designed to deflect enemy sonar waves, making it incredibly stealthy underwater. On top of that, the hull is built from a special non-magnetic stainless steel. This means that magnetic anomaly detectors, or MAD sensors, mounted on anti-submarine aircraft have a very hard time finding this sub. It is truly the ultimate in underwater stealth innovation. The propulsion system is another major highlight. The Type 212 CD uses an Air-Independent Propulsion, or AIP system, powered by 4th-generation hydrogen fuel cells, combined with high-performance MTU diesel engines. This setup allows the sub to stay submerged for weeks at a time without ever needing to surface to recharge its batteries. And just as importantly, it operates so quietly that it practically blends into the background noise of the ocean. In terms of its brain, the sub comes with a combat management system called Orca, co-developed by Germany and Norway. This system can process massive amounts of data from sensors all around the sub. It also features highly advanced self-defense systems like the Sea Spider anti-torpedo torpedo, parts of which will actually be manufactured right in Canada. So Canada gets world-class technology while also creating local jobs. Canada's decision dealt a heavy blow to South Korea. As soon as the results were announced, Hanwha Ocean immediately pulled out of its partnership agreements with the colleges and shipyards in Ontario, clearly showing their disappointment. Meanwhile, Canada estimates that the deal with TKMS will generate over 25,000 domestic jobs annually and boost GDP by more than $86 billion over the life of the project. Even though Canada will likely have to wait a bit longer for the first delivery compared to the South Korean timeline, deliveries are expected between 2034 and 2036, the government believes it's a worthwhile wait for a weapon system that perfectly fits their long-term strategic needs. Now, many of you might be wondering, since Canada is a G7 nation and shares a border with the US superpower, why didn't they join the AUKUS Pact or just buy nuclear-powered submarines like Australia did? After all, nuclear subs can operate under the ice for almost unlimited amounts of time. This was a heavily debated topic in naval security circles. The main answers are budget and domestic politics. Maintaining nuclear submarines requires incredibly complex infrastructure and highly specialized personnel, which Canada currently doesn't have. Building that entire ecosystem from scratch could have blown the budget well past the $100 billion mark. Furthermore, strong anti-nuclear sentiment in Canada remains a significant political hurdle. Therefore, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government viewed the advanced AIP system of the Type 212CD as the best possible compromise between tactical capability and a budget the country can actually afford. There's another fascinating angle that mainstream media often misses: the sovereignty dispute over the Northwest Passage. As global warming melts the Arctic ice, this new transport route could massively cut transport times between Europe and Asia. The issue is that Canada firmly claims this area as its own internal waters. However, its number one ally, the United States, along with several European nations and China, view it as an international strait where anyone has the right of free passage. So Canada dropping massive money on these new stealth submarines isn't just about keeping Russia or China in check. It's also a clear message to allies like the US that Canada has the capability to aggressively patrol and enforce its laws in its own backyard. It's a classic example of using military power to back up diplomacy and protect massive future economic interests. But despite this grand procurement plan, Canada still faces a major hurdle known in military circles as a capability gap. As we've seen, the earliest the first sub from TKMS will arrive is between 2034 and 2036. Meanwhile, the 4 active Victoria-class subs are reaching critical end-of-life status and are scheduled to start retiring by the end of this decade. The big question is, what will Canada use to patrol its waters while waiting for the new Type 212 CDs? Many defense analysts believe Canada might have to spend a fortune extending the life of the old subs again, or perhaps lease submarines from an ally as a stopgap measure. This was the exact vulnerability Hanwha Ocean tried to exploit during the bidding process, arguing their faster delivery could plug this hole. But this is the price Canada has to pay for waiting on the German technology they trust the most. In conclusion, this historic deal shows that in today's highly tense geopolitical climate, buying weapons isn't just about who can deliver faster or who has slightly better specs. It's about choosing sides, building alliances, and looking 30 to 50 years into the future at emerging threats. Canada chose to align with Europe to secure the Arctic, and TKMS proved that German engineering combined with NATO strategy was exactly what Canada was looking for. To give you a clearer picture of just how fierce the competition was regarding specs and costs, let's take a look at a detailed comparison between the winner, the TKMS Type 212CD, and the challenger, the Hanwha Ocean KSS-III Batch-II. Looking at this chart, you can clearly see that the design philosophies of these two nations are wildly different. Hanwha Ocean went with a significantly larger sub, and incredibly, they managed to fit 10 vertical launch system, or VLS, tubes. That is incredibly rare for a diesel-electric submarine. It gives them the ability to launch deep land attack missiles just like a nuclear sub. Plus, their use of lithium-ion battery technology means they can stay submerged for a very long time, all while guaranteeing a faster delivery schedule. On the flip side, Germany's TKMS didn't focus on heavy VLS weaponry. Instead, they went all in on stealth technology and self-defense. With its diamond-shaped, non-magnetic materials and a combat system perfectly integrated into the NATO backbone, it's designed to be an undetectable silent hunter. When you look at the total life cycle cost over 30 to 50 years surpassing $100 billion, it's no wonder Canada took its time evaluating this. Choosing a system fully compatible with Western allies like Germany is the safer bet and better serves Canada's long-term security needs, even if it meant sacrificing the heavy firepower of the South Korean VLS and waiting a few extra years for delivery. So what do you guys think about this massive deal? Did Canada make the right call going with the German stealth route, or do you think the heavily armed VLS-equipped South Korean sub would have been the better value? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of deep dive analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.